Former special counsel Robert Mueller's testimony had lawmakers in both parties claiming victory. As promised, Mueller pointed to his written report to answer many questions yesterday, and he was frequently concise. He gave one-word responses 176 times. Mueller emphasized his investigation did not exonerate President Trump of potential crimes, including obstruction. He said repeatedly that Justice Department guidelines prevent a sitting president from being indicted, but he said that does not mean Mr. Trump would have been charged otherwise.
President Trump criticized Mueller's testimony, and he claimed victory.
The performance was obviously not very good. He had a lot of problems. But what he showed more than anything else is that this whole thing has been 3 years of embarrassment and waste of time for our country.
After the hearings, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi stood firm on her beliefs that Democrats should fight the president in court and not through impeachment.
Virginia Democratic Senator Mark Warner is the vice chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee. That committee is investigating Russian interference in the 2016 election, and he joins us now from Washington in his first TV interview since the Mueller hearing. Senator, good morning.
Good morning.
You have not been among those members of your party calling for an impeachment inquiry. Did what you saw and heard yesterday change the calculation for you?
It didn't change the calculation. I'm going to leave that to Speaker Pelosi. Where we've been focused is the point that Bob Mueller made repeatedly yesterday. Not only did Russia attack us in 2016, but they will be back in 2020. And candidly, what I'm amazed at, I got no interest in relitigating 2016. I am interested in making sure that we have appropriate protections in place in 2020. Let's make sure there's a law that says if a foreign government tries to intervene, tell the FBI. Let's make sure every ballot that's cast in 2020 has a paper ballot backup. Let's make sure we take bipartisan legislation we've got so that if a foreign government intervenes, we immediately slap sanctions on. And let's also try to make sure that we've got some rules of the road on social media so that people can know when they're hearing from a human being versus a bot, when we have the same kind of political disclosure for political ads on the web that we have on TV. This is fairly common sense, bipartisan stuff. And my hope would be that Leader McConnell and this White House would agree to bring this kind of legislation to the floor.
We shall see. Senator, President Trump called Mueller's testimony a disaster for the Democrats yesterday. So a couple of things. I want to know what you thought about his testimony yesterday, and what did the Democratic Party accomplish, if anything, out of these hearings?
Well, candidly, I was working yesterday and only got a chance to catch bits and pieces of the testimony.
Well, the bits and pieces you saw, what did you think?
Well, he had told us beforehand he was going to stick to the script, that he was not going to go outside the four corners of the report. He did that. I think anyone who expected bombshells on either sides didn't get it. But I keep coming back to what I thought was, not in the relitigating of 2016, but in how we protect ourselves. The fact that he said not only are Russians coming back to attack, but they are literally attacking us each and every day. I would hope that every American, I don't care where you fall on the partisan scale, would take that as a warning and recognize that same message is coming out of Donald Trump's own director of the FBI, Chris Wray. It's coming out of Trump's own director of national intelligence, Dan Coats. And this ought to be a national security issue. And what, again, bothers me is this president seems so obsessed about his own kind of personal well-being that he dismisses this threat. And frankly, when he goes to a G20 meeting and makes light of this issue with Vladimir Putin, he does not make our nation safer.
Senator, speaking about the president there, you said earlier this year that there were enormous amounts of evidence of a conspiracy between the Trump campaign and Russia. Robert Mueller reiterated again yesterday that he did not find that. So given your earlier comments and given what's in the report, do you owe the president an apology?
We are still finishing our counterintelligence investigation. We still have not gotten access to literally reams of counterintelligence evidence. And I believe what Mr. Mueller said yesterday, at least what was reported to me, was he said they didn't even look at collusion because collusion is not a legal terminology. They did say there were well over 100 contacts between Russians and individuals in the Trump campaign. And as somebody who's been around certain presidential campaigns, campaigns in the past. That's just not normal.
But Senator, with all due respect, the report does say that collusion and conspiracy are functionally synonymous, and conspiracy was not established by the evidence.
Listen, I'm not here to try to relitigate Mueller's conclusions. I am here to make sure that we are safe in 2020, and unless we pass additional legislation, unless this White House and Mitch McConnell allows these bills to come to the floor, bills that would get 75, 80 votes, we're not doing all we can to protect our process.
The latest poll from CBS shows most Americans are ready. They've had it up to here with the Mueller report. They're ready to move on. Do you agree, yes or no?
Listen, I've been on this for the last couple of years. Our investigation has got to finish. I think, moving on from whether we relitigate 2016 is one issue. Making sure that we're safe in 2020. I think, Gayle, I've seen those very same polls who the vast majority of Americans agree the Russians intervened. And when you've got Donald Trump's own FBI director of national intelligence, and now Bob Mueller continuing to say they will be back and they are attacking us on a day-to-day basis, I would think I'd be anxious to hear from any of my colleagues why they wouldn't support the kind of common sense plans and legislation I outlined earlier in the interview.
All right, Senator Warner, we thank you for taking the time. We really appreciate it.